I'm 90 years old, and there's almost no one left who remembers me the way I used to be. Not properly, anyway. There are people who know my name, a nurse who reads it off a chart, a neighbor who waves when she sees me sitting outside. But the people who knew the middle of my sentences before I finished them, they're gone now. One by one, they slipped out of the world, and I stayed. I didn't think it would feel like this. When you're younger, you imagine old age as a kind of gathering. Grandchildren around your chair. Stories repeated until they become family history. You picture yourself surrounded by the evidence that you were here. But what no one tells you is, sometimes you outlive the circle. And when that happens, what remains is quieter than you expect. I live in a small room now. It's clean, nothing special. There's a window that faces a tree, and I spend a lot of time watching it. Not because it's beautiful, but because it's something that keeps going without asking anything from me. Mornings come early. They always do at this age. I wake up before the light, and for a moment, there's that strange confusion. Where am I? What day is it? Who's still here? And then it settles. I remember. My wife isn't in the next room. My brother isn't going to call. The friends I used to meet for tea, or cards, or nothing in particular, they're all names I say to myself now, just to keep them from disappearing completely. It's a strange thing, carrying so many people inside you when the world outside has gone quiet. I don't tell you this for sympathy. I think I'm telling you because I didn't understand any of it when I had the chance to. I thought I had time. That's a part that still sits with me. Not like a sharp pain. More like a weight that never quite shifts. When I was in my 20s, life felt wide open. I had a job at a small workshop, nothing glamorous, but it paid enough. My hands were always busy, fixing things, building things, trying to prove that I could make something solid in a world that felt uncertain. I wasn't unhappy. I just wasn't paying attention. There were people around me, good people. My mother, who liked to talk in the evenings. She'd tell me small stories about her day, things that didn't seem important at the time. I'd nod, half listening, thinking about work the next morning. I didn't realize those conversations were the thing itself, not background noise, not something to get through. But I was young, and young people don't know the difference. I met my wife when I was 27. She had a way of looking at you like she was actually hearing what you said, not just waiting for her turn. That was rare. Still is. We built a life together. Slowly, the way most people do. A rented place at first. Then a house we could barely afford. We filled it with ordinary things. Chairs that didn't match. A table that wobbled. Laughter that came easily in those early years. I worked a lot. That's the truth of it. Not because I loved the work so much, but because it felt necessary. There was always something to fix, something to improve, something to secure for the future. I told myself it was for us. And in a way, it was. But it also became a habit. A quiet kind of distance that grew without either of us naming it. She'd ask me to sit with her in the evenings. Just sit. No reason. And I'd say, in a minute. There was always something else I thought needed doing first. A minute can stretch into years, if you're not careful. We had a son. I remember the day he was born more clearly than most things. Not because it was perfect, but because it was real in a way that nothing else had been up to that point. He was small, loud, alive. I thought, now everything will make sense. But life doesn't rearrange itself just because something important happens. I kept working that I missed small things at first. A school play, a weekend trip, a conversation where he tried to tell me something, and I said, later, without really hearing him. It didn't feel like a loss at the time. It felt like postponing. There's a difference, but you only understand it when there's no chance to go back. Years pass the way they do, quietly, without asking permission. My son grew up, became his own person, with his own life, his own distance. We weren't estranged. Not exactly. We just weren't close in the way I had assumed we would be. Assumed is a dangerous word. It lets you believe something will happen without you actually making it happen. My wife and I, we settled into something comfortable, but not always connected. We knew each other well, but there were things we stopped saying. Not out of anger. Just neglect. Conversations delayed. Feelings set aside. You think you'll get to them when things slow down. Things don't slow down the way you expect. The turning point didn't arrive with any kind of warning. It rarely does. She got sick.at first. It was small. Tiredness. A cough that didn't go away. We thought it was nothing serious. Something that would pass. We had time, I thought. That belief stayed with me longer than it should have. By the time we understood what was happening, the doctors spoke in careful voices, the kind that don't quite meet your eyes. I remember sitting in a chair beside her bed, holding her hand, and thinking of all the evenings I had said, "In a minute," all the conversations I had postponed, and there was no place left to put them, no future day where I could finally sit down and listen the way I should have all along. She didn't blame me. That made it harder. She looked at me the same way she always had, like she was really seeing me, and I realized, too late, that I hadn't always done the same for her. She was gone within a year. The house felt different after that. Not just empty. Altered. Like the shape of it had changed, even though the walls were still there. I walked through the rooms and found traces of her everywhere. A cup she used. A book she never finished. Small things that suddenly carried more weight than anything I had ever built with my hands. I thought about calling my son more often. Sometimes I did. Sometimes I didn't. There's no good excuse for that. Just old habits that stayed longer than they should have. Time kept moving. It always does. Friends started to disappear. One from illness. Another from an accident. Another just gone one day, and you hear about it later. Each time, the circle grew smaller. And I told myself, again and again, that I should reach out to the ones who were still here. Sometimes I did. Sometimes I didn't. That's a truth I can't soften. Eventually, even the ones I thought would always be there weren't. And here I am, 90 years old, sitting by a window, remembering more people than I can speak to. There are things that can't be fixed, not because you don't want to, but because the moment for fixing them has passed. I can't go back and sit with my wife on those evenings when she asked me to. I can't listen to my mother's stories with the attention they deserved. I can't show up to the small moments I treated like they didn't matter. They mattered. That's the quiet truth of it. Not the big achievements. Not the things I spent so much time worrying about. It was the ordinary time. The shared time. The minutes I thought I could always reclaim later. If you're listening to me now, I don't expect you to change your life overnight. I wouldn't know how to tell you to do that. But I do want to say this as plainly as I can. Be careful with the way you delay things. Not everything waits for you. Some moments close without making a sound. Some people stop asking. And when they are gone, the space they leave doesn't fill back in. It just stays. I am 90 years old, sitting by a window, remembering more people than I can speak to. There are things that can't be fixed. Not because you don't want to, but because the moment for fixing them has passed. I can't go back and sit with my wife on those evenings when she asked me to. I can't listen to my mother's stories with the attention they deserved. I can't show up to the small moments I treated like they didn't matter. They mattered. That's the quiet truth of it. Not the big achievements. Not the things I spent so much time worrying about. It was the ordinary time. The shared time. The minutes I thought I could always reclaim later. If you're listening to me now, I don't expect you to change your life overnight. I wouldn't know how to tell you to do that. But I do want to say this as plainly as I can. Be careful with the way you delay things. Not everything waits for you. Some moments close without making a sound. Some people stop asking. And when they are gone, the space they leave doesn't fill back in. It just stays that I'm not entirely alone. There are still a few people who check in. A nurse who asks how I'm feeling. A neighbor who brings me fruit sometimes. My son calls, now and then. We talk about simple things. The weather, his work, my health. It's something. I'm grateful for it. Gratitude doesn't erase what's missing, but it sits beside it in a quieter way. At this age, you learn to hold both. The sorrow and the appreciation. The memories and the absence. They don't cancel each other out. They just exist together. I don't know how much time I have left. That's not something you get to know, even at 90. But I can feel the narrowing of it. Days are shorter, in a way that has nothing to do with the sun. There's less ahead than behind. That part is clear. If this means something to you, if you hear even a small part of yourself in it, maybe just pause once in a while. Sit with someone when they ask you to. Listen a little longer than you think you need to. Say the thing that feels unnecessary now. It might not be. I used to think life was about building something that would last. A career, a reputation, a sense of being someone. But what remains, when almost everyone is gone, isn't any of that. It's the memory of who you were to the people who mattered, and the memory of who they were to you. That's what stays. That's what I sit with. Most days, not the things I accomplish, but the moments I either lived fully or let slip past me. I'm not afraid of dying. Not in the way I used to be. It feels more like a closing of a door that's been open for a long time. What stays with me is not fear. It's the understanding that life was quieter and more fragile than I ever realized when I was in the middle of it. I wish I had known that earlier. But wishes don't change what's already been lived. They just remind you of it. So I sit here, by this window, watching the tree. It's still there every morning, steady, unconcerned with my regrets. And in a strange way, that's comforting. Because life keeps going, even when your part in it is almost finished. And maybe that's enough. For now, at least, it has to be.